Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the June 9th Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. Roll call D.
Marlene Newman, Doug Bruce, Daniel Slagle, Sam DeSaller,
I'm here.
Matthew Sutton,
Here.
Don Saunders,
Here.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Here.
Allison Chopra,
Here.
Bernard Croft, Duncan Campbell,
Here.
Derek Ritchie, Ernesto Castaneda, Chris Turbaum.
I'm here. All right, great. Thank you, Dee. So I need approval for minutes. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And the motion is for what date?
Thursday, May 12th.
Yeah, the
Thank
12th. Dee, you want to do roll call?
Okay, Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Matthew Sutton,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Allison Chopra,
I'll abstain. Not sure if I was there.
motion carried.
Thank you, Dee. All right, so let's move on to COA staff approval. COA 22-40.
Okay, COA 22-40 is for the temporary sign on 108 East 6th Street on Courthouse Square. The temporary sign complies in size and placement with the guidelines, so this is where Function Breweries used to be. And the petitioner has returned and has just submitted the permanent sign, and that will be, yes, and that will be presented during the next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gloria. All right, we'll move on to commission review. COA 22-37, 601 West 4th Street. Are the petitioners with us?
Yes,
Great, thank you. All right, Gloria.
So, COA 22-37 at 601 West 4th Street in the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. The petitioners, Lindsay and Daniel Mueller, are asking for a sidewalk change. They have WPA era sidewalks that had been restored at some point, and there had been many pieces that had been replaced. The replacement pieces have deteriorated even quicker than the original ones. And the proposal, they are intending to use a proposal that the city has used before along with the owners in other streets, where they will replace most of the historic pavers with just a standard concrete sidewalk, but will keep a sort of area of 5 feet by 3 feet with historic pavers in better condition, and with the paver with the date of construction on it. Sometimes using replacement parts that the city has kept in stockpile in order to at least acknowledge that the sidewalk had this historic component to it, but also updating it so that it is ADA compliant and safe to the users. So the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District Construction Subcommittee did comment. They have reviewed, let me see, the replica stone seems to be in worse shape as the replacement stones are thinner than the original stones. This is currently a problem in front of Lindsay and Danny Miller's property. Joe and Meredy Lamont went through a similar process previously. It would be helpful for the city to develop a step-by-step procedure for this repair process. Richard Lewis moved that as a neighborhood that we support Lindsay and Danny in their effort to repair the sidewalk in front of their property in a style similar to that of the Lamont did. Minyan Lee seconded, and the motion was unanimously approved. So these were their comments. And I have images that should be in the packet showcasing how the how the sidewalk currently looks. And then there is a precedent of what was done at 820 West House Street. And so the precedent has the before, during, and after. And yes, and with that I will leave it to the commissioners.
Okay. All right, let's do questions. Matthew?
No questions.
Elizabeth?
I don't have any questions.
Sam?
The only question I have is if it's a 3 by 5 foot section, do we know where that is gonna get put?
That is a great question, and that is something that they are coordinating with our,
Streets?
yeah, with the, so I don't know exactly where that would be. They have tried to put them away from the curbs or, you know, or where ramps would be, but if the petitioners have a better idea, they can comment on that.
Yeah, we had in mind probably in front of the stairs on the Jackson Street side. So it's kind of like at least leading up to the entryway of the home and kind of frames up the stairway a little bit better. So it's not just randomly placed somewhere along the sidewalk.
Welcome map.
All right. Is that okay?
That's great.
Great,
No, it's
perfect.
just-
Thanks, Sam. Allison?
No,
Any
sir, Mr.
questions?
Chair.
Thank you. Duncan?
I remember, this has come up several times in the city, in
Yeah.
other locations also, and there was a point at which the street division was salvaging old ones and stockpiling them. Do they just not have enough, or do they just not want to put them down? Because there was a time when they took up whole areas of them.
They have been stockpiling them, and at this moment, I would have to ask them, but I believe they're trying to be cautious with the amount that because the ones that are in really good condition are less than the ones that were severely damaged. So I would have to ask them to verify how many pieces they have. They are still stockpiling them, but I would have to ask how many they have, because right now there's a huge, there are huge citywide initiatives with sidewalks and conversations about what to do with all the historic sidewalks. And I think they're just being very cautious with how many of the really good ones they're handing out, you know, in case bigger projects come about where sidewalks have to be addressed more urgently. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, is that something that's really ongoing, or is that something that's we're never gonna hear about again? Because I'm just saying that
Yeah.
15 years ago, we went through several meetings, we talked to the street department, somebody came to the meeting, they were talking about stockpiling hundreds of these for exactly this purpose.
So right now, I can't speak to everything they are doing, but right now the city did get the is it Bloomberg grant, John Sodi?
For innovation, yeah.
For innovation, and the conversation that is being had throughout the entire city with this grant is the sidewalks and how to implement changes to the sidewalks. And I'm, waiting to see what comes from that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Chris, questions?
No question.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to comments. Matthew?
No comments.
Elizabeth?
No comments.
Sam?
I appreciate the owner's idea of putting it in front of their entry. I also want to echo, I think, what Duncan is getting at, in that if we got them, you know, they might want to keep a certain percentage laid by for repairs, but there's no point in just keeping them in a garage somewhere. So I would advocate that we ask the city and street department to maximize the area of sidewalk that they put down, because, you know, this is the time.
Mhm. Thank you, Sam.
Sure.
Allison?
Is it my turn?
It is.
Okay. I'll jump on that conversation and say that this city, especially on these sidewalks, I think I walked every sidewalk in the city this spring. the city can't keep up with the amount of disrepair there are on, especially these streets, because they get so cracked and crumbled so quickly. So, and they're especially dangerous. I mean, there are some very bad sidewalks out there. So I do think that it makes sense to be cautious with provisioning these good tiles so that eventually all of our sidewalks can be ADA compliant. I mean, that's a big deal if you can't use a sidewalk if you're in a wheelchair. I mean, I've seen people in wheelchairs in the middle of the road, and it's not cool. So I think it makes sense to ration these as best you can, with the hope that we would be able to keep up someday.
That would be nice. Duncan, comments? Chris, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. I was involved in that short section of sidewalk repair, and it was a nice compromise, a good way to keep the memory of that area and that date. I was also early on involved in those replacement sidewalks, which have turned out to be an utter failure. You know, it's maybe the stone was better in the old days. They knew their stone better, they knew how to treat it better, they knew how to lay it better, but our new stone has just deteriorated like that. So there's no reason to replace this large sidewalk that was kind of a failed experiment in using new stone to replace an old pattern. But keeping those stones on hand, you know, I've advocated for that. And many of these sidewalks can be repaired if, say, 5% of them are bad or 10%, and that's where these old stones really help preserve the sidewalk, but also repair it as needed. So we are constantly evolving our way of treating these historic sidewalks. And this is a lesson learned that you can't make new ones that look like old ones. It just somehow doesn't work. But we can keep the memory of them and we can repair them. And I'd like to have a report on the storage of those parts and the ongoing, like they're gonna tear up some old sidewalk also, and they'll probably find a percentage that might be worth storing, but certainly enough to put a good segment of sidewalk down. And we don't have to be married to a 5-foot section either. They could consider a little more if they have more saved. That's all I got.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Do we have any public comments? Okay.
Actually, John, can I throw in one comment I
Yes.
thought of, which is that, and I'm serious here. I don't know if this is permissible, but the archaeologist in me, looking at that date in the section, would love for it to be possible to stamp 2022 into the cement, making life easier for historians and archaeologists down the road. I don't know if that's, I wouldn't call it a requirement. I don't know if the city would allow it, but I think it would be cool.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fine.
Get permission first, though.
Janice Sorby has her hand up.
Okay. Hey, Jan.
Let me ask her to unmute.
Yeah,
Do you have a comment?
she has a comment.
Hi, John.
Hi, Jan.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
The Bryan Park neighborhood, several years ago, got a city grant to improve and to replace these sidewalks, WPA sidewalks as well. And it was just an awful, awful failure. And so I just wanted to say that our neighborhood has experienced this as well. And it'd be wonderful if a solution could be found. And I have a lot of sympathy for the petitioners here tonight because they want to make it safe and they want to make it look good. And at the same time, I was told that the pavers that were used in Bryan Park, at least, did not come from a batch of what they call cured stone, meaning the stone was fresh, and because it was fresh, it didn't have the temper that an older stone had. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jan. Mr. Lewis?
Wait, let me see if okay, ask him to mute.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Hi there. Good evening. Can you all hear me okay?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Richard Lewis. I live in the Prospect Hill neighborhood, and I am a member of the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District Design Review Committee. thanks to Gloria for putting this package together, and thanks to Lindsay and Danny Mueller for their efforts. I think they're trying to do a really nice job of carefully restoring parts of their home and sort of inherited this sidewalk situation. And when I took a look at it, I was struck by the fact that it runs, the current sidewalk runs the entire length of their parcel along Jackson Street. And it's not a small amount of sidewalk to repair and to replace. So I am sympathetic to them about potentially prohibitive costs to try to fully restore it to the WPA sidewalk stones, which are quite thick, quite deep in their depth. And as Chris may have pointed out, one of the problems with the replacement stones that were done several years ago is that they were also quite a bit thinner. And so in addition to what Jan just mentioned about possibly not being cured, the material itself is thinner and more prone to cracking. And yet, if you're trying to replace it with the completely original stones, you're having to excavate much deeper and going into a much greater amount of cost, leveling, materials, labor, etc. I do think the compromise that was reached on House Street with homeowners Joe and Mary de la Mancia is actually fairly attractive. I tend to like keeping things exactly as they were when possible, but in this case, I think this is a very practical compromise, and given that we are trying to create accessible sidewalks at every corner, and Danny and Lindsay's house is on a corner lot, I think it is a good practical compromise to pave with modern day materials and labor to ensure those smooth and accessible corners. And then I like Lindsay's idea a lot, having the historic section at the foot of their steps at the side of their property, which is almost mid-parcel there. So I think symmetry-wise, that would also provide a pleasing look. So our design review committee doesn't actually have purview over sidewalks, but as an individual member of the committee and of our neighborhood, I just wanted to go on record that I support their efforts and support their request for this COA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. So we need a motion for approval.
So moved.
And Dee, will you take the roll?
Wait.
Did we get a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Come on, guys.
Thank you.
Sam DeSauer,
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Allison Chopra.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Dee. All right, so let's move on to COA 22-38, 312 South Euclid Avenue.
So I just wanted to note that we have a theme today of the Greater Prospect Hill or Prospect Hill neighborhood. The 312 South Euclid Avenue is in the Prospect Hill neighborhood and nestled within the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. However, it is its own historic district, the Brummett House. The petitioners, just a random fact, I think the Prospect Hill neighborhood might have the most historic districts, building and single buildings. I have to check. Don't quote me on that just yet. That said, Ella Heckman and John Lasky are requesting to convert a door to a window. The said door and window are located on the rear addition to the house. In addition, it has a shed roof that was built in the 1940s. This is barely visible from the street, but there is an alleyway behind the house. And they want to convert the space. And they want to put a single hung wooden frame window where the door is currently located. Staff doesn't consider this to impact the historic material of the house too much, and it really isn't visible from right-of-ways. It is visible from the alley, but that said, staff does recommend approval of COA 22-38, and with that, we leave it to all of you. I believe that
Are they with us?
They are here.
They are here?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Via Zoom or in person?
Yeah,
Zoom.
Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, so let's go to questions. Matthew?
No questions.
Elizabeth?
No questions.
Sam?
No questions.
Allison?
I was assuming that this question would be asked. Do we have a picture of the door?
Yes.
Let's go into a window. Yes.
A window, sorry.
Well,
Can
we have a picture of the door,
Yeah, we have the door, I mean the window.
Yeah.
and there is a drawing of how it would look, and it was turned.
I'm not seeing it in my packet.
Sorry, you're gonna have to share the presentation because, let me zoom, sorry, go to the presentation because the
Yeah, here.
owner sent it in after the packet went up.
Oh, I see.
So it's just replacing, taking that out, putting this in.
It's similar to the other
Yeah.
windows.
Design tip.
Okay. Okay, well, as long as staff has seen it and approved, that's all my questions.
Okay,
Those
perfect.
are all my questions.
And I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Duncan? Chris?
No,
Okay, so let's move on to comments. Matthew, any comments?
No comments.
Elizabeth? Sam?
No comments.
Allison?
No, thank you.
I don't have any comments. Duncan?
No.
Chris?
on the back looks fine, thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we need a motion for approval.
I move to approve COA 22-38.
I second it.
Thank you. All right, D?
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes?
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Allison Chopra.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Dee. All right, let's move on to COA 22-42, 605, 607 West 4th Street.
COA 22-42 for 605 607 West 4th Street is, Marilyn Patterson is requesting window change. So as staff, I simply quoted the guidelines, existing architectural detail, specifically original historic elements for windows, porches, doors, and eaves in the public way facade shall be retained or replaced in the same style or in a design appropriate to the character of the house or streetscape. And to retain the proportion of all original openings, doors, windows, etc. Replacement of windows and doors determined to be original should duplicate the original in size and scale in ways that do not visually impact the public way facade of the house and continue to reflect the period of the house. After looking at the proposed replacement windows and the intention of the owner to maintain the fenestration scale and sizes, staff recommends approval of COA 22-42. Patrick Murray of the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District Construction Subcommittee emailed stating, I wanted to let you know that as a member of the PHNA COA committee that I support the request for replacement windows for the above cited project on 605-607 West 4th Street.
Great.
And here, these are double hung windows of traditional design, the classic design of Anderson 400 series windows and patio doors to complement traditional style homes, according to the pamphlet. And there are some images. Let me look at the packet very quickly. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm putting things properly. So yes, the application doesn't state how many windows would be replaced. From what I understand, it is for all of them.
Is the petitioner present?
Yeah, she's here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
13.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
No, all of them.
Okay.
The main floor, all windows.
Okay.
Terrific. Matthew, questions?
No question.
Elizabeth?
No question.
Sam?
I have a couple questions. It looks from the photographs that the exterior is currently covered in vinyl. Is that true? Is that?
Actually, it's aluminum.
It's aluminum. Okay, I haven't been out, so it's, and are these windows that you're talking about replacing, are they original to the house? Are they original wood windows, do you think? Or, I know
They're
some.
wood windows.
Okay, some
And
of them
so
don't
does
look original,
Some
but.
of the storms.
Gotcha. And do they have the original trim on the outside? Or has that been replaced, do you know?
I don't understand the question. I've never replaced any.
Okay.
The trim around.
So the little boards that go around the outside of the windows, are those wood as well? And are they, well.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, like the windowsill that you're looking at right there, that's wood, yes.
Okay.
They're all wood.
Okay. So I guess my next question is, these Anderson windows, I looked them up, they're a combination of wood pulp and polymer. Is it a smooth finish on the outside?
Yes.
Cool. And then I guess the other question is, in the handout, it's the flat, so it will include the little board that goes around the outside of the window in your window package.
Yes.
So
It
what?
will look just like that.
So the thickness of what's there is gonna be the thickness of what you put in, like the width of the board around the window, the trim.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Yep.
Allison?
So, this question is for anyone who can answer it. This is not the same material as the original, is that
Oh, no.
correct? So, I would have a question then for staff, why we would be allowing someone to replace with windows that are not the same exact material. I know that we've denied people in the past for that.
Different district.
Because it's all very, very sensitive and dependent on the historic district and its specific guidelines. So there are 13 historic districts, multi-building historic districts, and 13 multi-building historic district guidelines. Some of them are more lenient and some of them are more restrictive. The Greater Prospect Hill Historic District is one of the more lenient historic districts that does allow for, as long as the windows are as compatible as possible, in a certain way, it does allow much more flexibility than Prospect Hill. So there's Greater Prospect Hill and then there's Prospect Hill, like the core Prospect Hill. And then Elm Heights is also extremely restrictive. The neighbors and owners created these guidelines themselves.
Right. So the one that I'm recalling, I believe, was on like
Heights.
West 4th Street. And it was like a gray building. This guy might have been a business owner. It was right at the beginning of my tenure. I just very specifically remember us denying that petition because of this exact reason. But if this is within the guidelines, then I don't have a problem with it at all. So thank you for that answer.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
No problem.
Duncan, comment? Questions?
Yeah, I
Thank you.
mean, it's always sort of complex when you have all these different guidelines, and there's a tendency for the commission to follow the guidelines whenever possible, but there's no mandate to follow the guidelines. The commission can make the decision it wants to do. The guidelines are just that, they're guidelines. And if you look this up on the national standards and everything, that's the way it's read. So the normal expectation for, say, the National Park Service or the Secretary of Interior Standards is to replace when the windows have deteriorated more than 60%. So usually the procedure would be to go and look at the windows and see what kind of condition they're in and recommend repair over replacement, no matter what the guidelines say. That's Secretary Standards. And that means 60% of each window has to be deteriorated beyond repair. So it's a pretty high standard. And I'm not hearing anything that there's anything wrong with these windows. The other thing that it's important for the petitioner to know is that a wood window with a good exterior storm window is more energy efficient than any new window on the market. So you're not gaining energy efficiency. You're probably gaining convenience because they'll go up and down easier and things like that. But they won't be better windows than the original wood sash. There's no way they'll be anywhere near as good a material or will last as long, or so Just saying. I mean, the commission can follow the guidelines, or they can make their own unique decision about it, but the intention of historic preservation law is to preserve original material whenever possible, and first option is to repair it.
Thank you, Duncan. Chris?
Yeah, it's interesting. Windows is a very difficult issue. And I see it on a gradient of really outstanding houses to the very basic, hard to take care of houses. And on that gradient scale, I think there are times to really consider window replacement. You know, this may be a jump ball here in a lot of ways. But I just did a house next door to myself, and the one odd thing about it, everything's traditional and historic and original, except the windows that were replaced, 30 years ago. And I don't think it affects the character of the house as much as I would have expected. And I kind of think we may be in an evolutionary moment of thinking about rethinking windows a little bit. So seeing it as a jump ball, I'm in the middle. But I'm firmly in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Matthew, any comments?
No.
May I ask a
Are we
different
doing
question?
questions?
Yes, absolutely.
We've gone around once, I'll go.
Yeah, I feel like I got.
Yeah,
so-
go ahead, Allison.
Has anyone got their questions
Yeah.
settled? Okay.
Yeah.
I did want to ask the petitioner what the reason for replacement instead of repair is. It's probably cost, but also just the reason for fixing the windows at all.
Well, I have taken these windows, I've been there for 44 years, and I've taken these windows off, at least, everyone, you can't do them all at once. Reglazed them and put them back, and it has come to the point where some of the storm windows are now nailed or screwed in and can't come off anymore because of paint and because of warping and, and other, like my next door neighbor just put these same windows in that you okayed, so I was very excited, as I age, not to, really it took 4 people to get that front window in the last time, and we took nails and nailed it in when I glazed it last time. And there aren't people to do that. Try to find somebody. Matt Murphy used to, but he's so backed up that he can't do it. And so it's impossible to use the windows, and I think you'll be getting more of this because some of them are huge, and it takes several people to get them down to do all that work. And and I would hate to be penalized for the fact that I have kept them in good shape all these years.
Well, certainly not. I had a follow-up question. And obviously, I'm guessing that the reason that you're doing this material instead of wood is cost. I mean, there's a
They're
gigantic
wood
cost
windows. They're wood.
difference,
They're wood
yeah.
windows.
Okay, yeah.
They're wood windows.
They're
They're the
composite.
architectural wood windows.
Am I mixing something up in the flat 400 series wood right double hung window is actually, according to the manufacturers, an Anderson window, right?
Yes.
According to the manufacturers,
Wood right.
it's made of this stuff called Fibrex, which is a mix of ground up wood and polymer on the outside. And then on the inside it's wood.
Okay.
So you get the wood on the inside and everybody else gets the painted whatever it is,
Okay.
just so you know.
Okay.
All right.
What I see is wood, so I'm not a window expert, although I've glazed a lot of them.
You're more
Thank
of an
you.
expert than many of us.
Thank you. Matthew?
No
comments? Elizabeth?
Thank you, Matthew.
Sam? Comments?
No comments.
And Allison?
Yeah, I think this jump ball goes to the petitioner, seeing as how her neighbors have agreed on these parameters. If they didn't agree on them, it looks like they're going to be considering them heavily soon. But if they didn't agree on them, then that would be a different story. So I'll go with the neighbor's choice, which is to replace.
I haven't got any comments. Duncan, any comments?
No,
But-
I just want the
What'd you
petitioner
say
to be aware
before?
that she's not getting a better product.
Yeah, and Chris?
Yeah, I would, if I had a vote, I would support this. I think we need to rethink some of our window issues, and not being able to open them is a big deal, not being able to get somebody else to repair them is a big deal. And the guidelines in this neighborhood were intentionally lenient toward replacement. So I would support it if I had a vote.
All right, thank you, Chris. So we need a motion.
Wait,
Oh, wait.
public, Richard Lewis.
Oh, Richard,
Let
I'm
me-
sorry.
Let him talk.
Yeah, just saw your hand. Thank you, Gloria.
Great, thank you. And I'll try to be quick. I don't want to stand in the way of this. As a member of the Design Review Committee and also one of the members of our founding committee that created our guidelines, a lot of our emphasis was on, and it's in the introduction to our guidelines on page 5, to recognize the economic diversity in our neighborhood and to make reasonable, affordable, and possible for our neighbors to update or repair their homes. And a lot of our focus with fenestration and doors is proportion, so that the dimensions are correct, which it appears that this homeowner is observing that, and that we recognize a variety of materials as practical replacements when removing original materials. So as a member of our design review committee, I would support this. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. Okay, I need a motion now.
I move to approve COA 22-42.
And I second it.
Great. D?
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Allison Chopra.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, D.
very much.
Thank you
It's
for
gonna make
coming
my
in.
life much easier.
All right.
And have a nice evening.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to COA 22-43.
COA, COA 22-43, 800 West Kirkwood Avenue, also located in the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. The petitioner, Roy Campbell, is requesting window changes, siding change, and closing one window and one door on the back facade. So this house suffered extensive fire damage a few months ago that destroyed many of the windows, including, the proposed siding. So I believe the proposed siding was allowable, but I'll get to that in a second. The proposed windows also, as long as they maintain the scale and the size, is very flexible in the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. And the proposed windows to be eliminated, window and door to be eliminated in the back, are completely in the back, only visible from an overgrown alley and a later addition, and are located on a later addition to the building. Staff recommends approval of COA 22-43. So I'm going to quote Richard Lewis, who I believe is still here and can quote himself later, but he stated that he would like to, let me just quote him exactly. Generally, I would like to say that I am in support of this project. However, page 25, our design guidelines weigh in against the use of faux grain material in the siding, whether it be vinyl, aluminum, etc. Yes, so I took a photo of the sample that was brought, and it does have texture on it. So that's where I would amend my statement and say that if the vinyl the proposed vinyl siding can be smooth instead, that would be preferable. So I also wanted to show where the building is located. This is more for the people who are online. Those who are here need to have more creativity or look at the packets. I'm so sorry to all of you. Again, so the petitioner presented 2 plans, a current layout. There really isn't a lot of change to the layout except for the removal of the door and a window in the back in order to close it off and create a bedroom. And I also have some images that I don't believe are necessarily in the packet, but are in the visual presentation of the extensive damage caused by the fire. So, yes, that's what I have up to now. I will leave it to the HPC.
Okay, and the petitioner is with us this evening. Matthew, any questions?
Well, yeah, to Gloria, so just looking at the picture of the siding, is it imitation wood grain?
Yeah.
Or that's what that is, just, okay, all right, so it is trying to imitate wood. Okay.
Yes, and the allowable one is supposed to be smooth.
That's right, okay. Got a little trouble saying. No other questions?
Okay.
Sir.
Elizabeth? Sam?
No question.
Allison?
Wow, a lot of questions today. I guess this one's for the petitioner. Is there a possibility that the siding could be smooth instead of textured?
I suppose there's a possibility. I mean, the texture on that siding is very minimal. But it is visible, but it's minimal.
Okay. I mean, is there a significant, is there a reason that,
That's
talk to me
typically
here.
what you find in most of the building material places.
Okay. Okay. And that's because that's what's being used more in now in new homes, not necessarily.
Well, they make both.
Yeah, I'm just saying. That's what I'm used to seeing, at least on like brand new homes. But is that something that you would be willing to change?
Oh, I could too. I could change that. Yeah, I don't think it's not that big a deal. It's just
Yeah.
you typically what you find now.
Sure.
And it's not dissimilar to what the majority of the siding is in that neighborhood. I did a inventory of the 800 and 900 block, and 50% in the 800 block are vinyl sided homes. And in the 900 block, it's 63% are vinyl sided homes.
As opposed to like aluminum or.
Yeah, it has that kind of wood grain finish,
Most of the.
existing ones.
Yeah.
Existing homes.
Okay. Let me just make sure I didn't have another question.
And we're also putting a new roof on that house.
Hope you don't, obviously, you're not living in that home right now, correct?
No.
I didn't assume.
No, it's not livable.
Okay. Will you be living in the home?
No,
Okay.
we're going to sell it as a single family home.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
I don't have any questions. Duncan?
Yeah, well, I really have a comment. I don't have any questions. I read the packet.
Okay. Chris? Questions?
Yeah, is that 4-inch siding?
Yes, it's a double 4.
Double 4?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to comments. Matthew?
Well, the guidelines basically say no products, and it's pretty clear, no products imitating the grain, so it would be easier for me to say, cool, or to approve this if it were a different kind of siding with the smooth siding. I totally get why you were picking it. It's just kind of tough to go completely against the guidelines. I don't think you were trying to, but it would be hard for me to. But it sounds like you might be willing to do. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew. Elizabeth? Sam?
Yeah, I echo what Matt said, and I'm happy to make a motion at some point to approve with the caveat that the siding be smooth.
Okay.
Same.
Allison? Comments?
Same as him.
Same as Sam. And I agree with Sam and Matthew on this. Chris? We're all good?
Yeah, I think this guideline was aimed at the artificial cement board siding that just has, it looks like wood grain, but not really. It looks so bad that it just looks like an imitation product. And some of the grains on these vinyls are very small and fine grained, and we may not need to worry about that. But the 4 inches is very important, and that's going to make a difference on how that house looks.
Thank you, Chris. And Duncan?
Yeah, I think the smooth surface is meant to say that we understand you're imitating painted wood siding, and painted wood siding is smooth. It doesn't show any grain. And so the grain is just a manufacturer's fabrication, and that's why it's sort of come to be anathema for certain historic districts. It also gets dirty. It shows the dirt a lot worse.
Green.
So, you know, you can just kind of hose off vinyl siding, but when you have that texture, it catches the dirt.
Right.
It's guilty of static attraction.
Thank you, Duncan.
So-
Okay, we need a motion.
I will move to approve COA 22-43 with the caveat that the siding be smooth-faced.
I make an amendment to that, can I propose that? I did notice that the garage door was to be of the same material, so I'd like to see the garage door in the flat.
The garage door is in.
Garage aluminum siding removed and a vinyl double floor siding similar to the main house will be installed.
So
That's number.
all siding is smooth.
All,
Everything. Any new siding is gonna be smooth. That's what I intended with my
Okay.
caveat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. So we need a second.
I'll second that.
All right. D?
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Matthew
On the
Sutton?
amendment,
Yes.
To make sure that he has a chance to say something before. we
John
vote.
Saunders,
Don't you think?
Hang on a minute, D. Roy, do you have a comment to be made before we move forward with the petition, with the votes? Anything you want to add to that? I mean, you're okay with doing the smooth siding?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
fine with doing the smooth siding, I don't have any problem with that.
All right, very good.
Yeah,
We
maybe
good?
difficult finding it, but,
I think you can find it. It's out there. We have special order.
yeah.
Is that
Thank
good?
you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's go back with the vote, D.
okay, John Saunders,
Yes?
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Allison Chopra.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, good enough. Thank you, Dee.
Thanks.
Thank you, Roy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to demolition delay. Is that
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Demolition delay, DD 22-11, 714 East First Street.
Demolition delay, DD 22-11 is for, I believe if the owners are here or they want to clarify, but planning informed me that the demolition delay is for the partial demolition of the garage roof. The current roof is flat and it's caving in, and they want to replace it with a pitched roof. None of the main building would be affected, and most of the garage shouldn't be affected.
Okay. The petitioner doesn't need to be here for this.
They don't have to.
Okay,
It was
that's
just
what I
in
thought.
case they wanted to clarify.
Very good.
Because I based this off their application form
Okay.
and to the and what planning notified me of.
Very good. So do we have any questions? Sam?
This isn't in a district, right?
No, this is a demolition delay.
Have we seen the permit drawings that, I mean, they've got to submit some drawings to the building department to put a pitched roof on, right?
They do. I can pull them up.
I think it would be lovely to see those before
Give me 1 second.
we say yay or nay.
Look weird, like that's that way. The roof is a different way.
Let me see, because their application was pretty minimalist.
So, can I ask you a question real quick while she's doing that?
Sure.
Like, isn't it kind of weird that this is pitched this way and then this is actually probably gonna be pitched? Like, it's not gonna be this way, it's gonna be the other way,
We
right?
just don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm just asking, if that's true, I'm just asking, like, isn't it? I don't want all of the,
I mean, this house has like a zillion different roofs going on already.
Well, that's true, that's true.
Sheds and gambrels and hips and it's all over the map.
okay, well, I guess that's.
So anything will work with it.
Put a dome. A West
No,
Wing
don't
dome on there.
Do we not have
Sorry,
anybody
just
with
reflex, like,
plannings?
couldn't help myself.
They have, the person, because we lost Keegan, the person who's been my point of contact now, has another commission at this hour.
Okay.
And so it's been a little bit more uphill.
If I was renting this, I would just demolish it and make them park on the patio. I don't care.
I didn't see in the packet any.
Put any money
Yeah, I
into
didn't
the
either.
houses and
Give me
you're
one
just
second.
renting
Just said
them.
you wanted to add a slope for a bed of pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It could be any type of pitch you could imagine, given the.
I'm
song.
having trouble.
We need to discuss this.
Just, why don't I ask
Like
a
triple pitch,
clarification question
like the
though,
Alps.
before we get too deep into it? On a demo delay,
Do we have her?
our only option
Is to approve or not approve.
Yeah, so
Or
it's
put
really-
it on the
Yeah, there's no
register.
point. I was just like,
I don't think.
Well, you're
we
still
need
supposed to be able to see what you're approving.
I agree.
I mean, you can table it.
How are we on that time? Do you know, Gloria?
It was submitted
Give you
May,
enough
the
information to
packet
make a
says
decision.
when it
Sure,
was
that's
submitted, it was
Yeah.
submitted
I agree, but.
at the end of May.
May 23rd, so
Precedent that we got.
we could delay it until our next meeting.
Okay, yeah, I'm cool with that,
If we don't have it, that would be my motion.
yeah.
I do want to warn you that the next meeting is stacking up.
10 or 9 o'clock?
I think I'm gonna be on vacation.
When is the next one?
2 weeks.
23rd,
Yeah.
on a Thursday?
Yeah, our
I'm gonna be
meetings
out
are-
of town. so-
Our meetings are always on
I'm not being funny.
Thursdays.
I'll be in Santa Fe. Or what?
We can Zoom.
Sorry.
No,
No.
no,
They don't have
exactly.
Zoom.
Different time zones. No, I'll just be so.
It's earlier. Lunch.
Oh.
It's true. I'll probably be on my phone.
Yeah, our next one's the 23rd.
Yeah, I'll be on the phone. Huh,
Sorry,
so
there's a lot of files and I have to enter the
Okay,
files
well,
of another
almost. There you go,
agency,
got it.
so, or another
Oh, it didn't
department.
go.
I know this Chanel lipstick will not budge. It's that kind that doesn't come off.
Right.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. People didn't believe me. I'm like, let me buy some of this, but I did. I bought them for a couple friends.
Oh, I have to get some for my wife.
Yeah, you
7:23,
We're good, John? Come on.
14.
Yes,
Can we look up the number again?
gone.
Sorry.
Cool.
Okay,
Really?
thank you for your patience. It's actually a construction permit C22-211.
I'll eat with this stuff on.
Okay.
I'll eat a full meal.
And it's still there?
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Probably toxic as hell.
Well, some of the lipstick my wife has, I just give her a kiss and it's all over me.
Well, that's fun when you have little kids too.
Okay.
They don't think it's cute anymore. All right, they just both exited the cuddle stage, so no more cuddling
Okay,
for me.
so, this is what they submitted. I'm sorry we don't have the big
Yeah.
screen. Profile, Black Lumber Company.
It's like a 3 and 12 roof truss, it looks like.
Yes.
And is it, and it's, I guess
Yeah,
it's just got a
yeah,
flat
they'll,
gable
uh,
on each side.
they'll-
To translate it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then,
I can tell you, I was in Roy's house when it burned, just after it
I
burned. It was
guess
pretty
it-
bad
Oh,
outside.
man, that's sad.
Uh, I used to share an office with him.
It's
20
gonna go
years ago.
short span, so you're gonna be looking at, the slope of the roof from the street, you're not gonna be looking
It
at
was-
the
It
gable.
had been rented, and so they
Okay,
don't know.
that's all they
what
submitted.
exactly
Alright,
took
and
place.
the garage is, go back to the site plan, the garage is 20 feet wide, it looks like, go back to the black lumber thing. Does it say how wide the trusses are? Span 21.3, so it's like little overhang.
Okay.
K&K trusses?
Thank you, Gloria.
All right.
Can you translate that for us?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll draw a little picture.
Perfect. I need a piece like that, so my pencil falls off all the time.
So it's a 312
312 pitch.
facing the street.
Okay. So, any other questions? All right, so, let's move forward. We need a vote for this, don't we? Do we need a vote or just
To read the page.
read your page?
Yeah, and after you read the page, you vote.
Very good. We haven't done this for a while. Today regarding the property located at 714 East First Street, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of proposed demolition or partial, and after today's discussion, sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to common council. Okay, and we need a vote? B?
Do we need a second?
Second.
There we go.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Allison Chopra,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right. Very good, thank you. Then let's move on to DD 22-12, 1306 South Grant Street. And I believe the petitioner's with us, Mr. Floyd? You just got that house recently, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Yes, I know. Okay. Gloria?
So 1306 South Grant Street is a contributing structure. It contributes to the neighborhood patterning through its scale, front porch, and setbacks. It is a very small house measuring 480 square feet, which is half of my small apartment. There are a few contributing houses on this street. However, staff is concerned about the greater implications to Bryant Park neighborhood and the long-term impact to the patterning in the region. That said, staff recommends release of Demo Delay 22-12. I also I spent a while pulling up this map and like working on it, and now I can't put it on the big screen of just showing. I don't think I can zoom in on this.
Well, Matthew's got Zoom, so,
I'm taking a look at it.
yeah.
A lot of little guys in there.
So that particular block, that particular street has about 4 contributing buildings, a non-contributing structure. I'm not even, I'll just recommend release for this one, but I'm thinking the greater implications for Bryant Park to talk about their neighborhood in a greater way later on, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, questions?
So what's wrong with this house? I mean, why?
Well, there's a lot of things that are not right about the house.
I mean,
'cause
I looked at it, I was like, that's so cute. I hope that they're making it cuter.
it's not
I don't
on a
understand.
good foundation.
Okay,
It's piers,
where are you getting this information? Because it's not in the packet.
because I listed the house and sold it.
Okay,
So
I appreciate that.
I do have some,
Thank you.
knowledge
Yes,
about
yes,
this.
yes, okay.
Are you gonna do the questions and comments?
Yes, so let's do the questions. Matthew, you got any questions?
No questions.
Elizabeth?
I wanted to know, what's wrong with it? Why tear it down?
Yes.
Tell me what the problems are, or if
Very
they
good.
talk to
Mr.
me.
Floyd?
The intent is for it to be my personal single-family house. It's 480 square feet, which doesn't work. Right now, it's just a basic shotgun with a living room, a bedroom, and you have to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen. The kitchen is an add-on. As John said, it is on piers, which are not a substantial feundation. There was a structural report done by Kevin Potter. The basic, or the primary floor structure spans 16 feet, and they are 2x8s with no center support. And then I believe the back kitchen part, the floor framing is 2x6s, and they span a little bit less, maybe 14 feet or 12 or 14 feet, which again is not ideal.
But it's been there since 1930. Okay.
Sam, questions?
Is anything from the house salvageable? I mean, is there anything that you're gonna try and pull out of the house to keep?
The asbestos siding?
That's great.
I don't know. Honestly, I have only owned the house since March 31st.
Okay.
It's currently a rental and there's a tenant in there, so I've not been in and really investigated what, in terms of what would be salvageable.
The shower.
Oh, honestly, I've never even been in the back.
Allison, questions?
So many questions. So, how much did this how much did you buy this house for? This is an important question.
150.
115. Okay. And were you kidding or not about the asbestos siding? I couldn't tell.
No,
it
it's
is.
serious.
Yeah.
Well, the suspicion is that it's asbestos siding. I have testing scheduled for lead-based paint and asbestos siding.
Okay, thank you. But you're suspecting that?
Yeah. And that'll be removed. If it is in fact asbestos, I'll have a licensed abatement contractor remove that and properly dispose of it.
Sure, thank you. Let me ask a question, actually, Mr. Zodi, if you don't mind, concerning the city's policy on affordable housing and density.
Okay.
How do you think, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but how do you think that this proposal aligns with the city's concern for affordable housing, single-family homes at an affordable price, densities, ADUs, all that? You know, our goal as a city to try to get more affordable housing and more housing in the city.
I don't want to sidestep your question. What I will say.
I'm going to.
What I will say is that the commission's sort of our guidelines provide that you sort of when considering a demo delay, you got to think about the historic guidelines as it surrounds the house and whether the house is worthy of designation or not. So I'm not sure I should speak to the overall vision of the city. I need to check the zoning here. I need to think about a lot of other things, but that kind of gets outside the scope of the HPC's mission.
So
unless others would disagree with me, but that's how I feel I should best answer the question.
I think that is right on, so thank you.
Yeah.
I really do have a lot of questions. Gloria, can you remark on the historic significance of this home?
So, this house is representative of, it's considered a California bunk-style bungalow. It is contributing in the way that having many houses that are the similar scale are contributing to each other as a whole, as a cohesive whole. So, and that's kind of the double-edged sword of contributing buildings, is that they are like stronger in herds or stronger, you can make a case for a single contributing building to be elevated. That is not impossible, it can happen. But in this case, it's just a little bit harder on its own because we don't have a third option. The option is either to release or to elevate. If we had a third option to move, then we could start talking about that sort of option here, but we don't have it. Other cities do. So in this case,
To release or to elevate its status? Is
its
that-
status to historic district, to designate to historic district, and we would have to use the historic district, the justifications that are in Title VIII that are based on state and federal, they're actually based on the Secretary of the Interior standards. So we would have to use that in order to justify why this building should be not just kept built, not just kept there, but to be elevated to a historic district. So it's kind of like, these are not my favorite types of cases. I'm just putting that in the public sphere for posterity, for history. This is not meant to be a simple or easy process for anybody here. Every decision that everybody here makes is an important and very weighty decision that literally changes the landscape of Bloomington forever from one day to the other. So that's why, none of this is taken lightly.
Right, and because of that, I do feel that I need to ask this question. It's not personal at all, it's professional. All the questions I ask are not personal. Do you feel that you might have a conflict in hearing this matter as someone who is involved in the business transaction of it?
Good question. I don't see me having a conflict with this because of my business and because I know what's going on. I think he's well within his rights to ask to have this property torn down.
Was that part of the sales transaction?
No, it was not at all. I made it very clear to everybody who showed the property and looked at it that it would be difficult to have it torn down. It could be difficult having it torn down because it has to go through demolition delay and because of its age. So I made that.
It wasn't like, but I'm on the,
Oh, no, no,
you can see where,
yeah, I see
and that's
that.
why I'm
Yeah.
asking the
I made
question.
it very clear to everybody who showed that house and looked at it,
Great.
what their possibilities are.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. So do we have any questions for Duncan?
Here's your pen, thank you.
Well,
Or comments?
I mean, you're gonna rebuild, you're gonna build a new house on this lot and give up that beautiful house you built?
That's how this got started. That beautiful house I built, a couple knocked on the door, handed me a check. I looked at it. I said, let me pack my bags. Currently homeless.
Yeah, I pretty much knew that was the story. That's a really nice
So
house.
that's an effective way to buy a house you like? Okay.
I mean, the question for me always in this situation is, and Gloria said, we don't really have the third alternative. Does the house deserve to be designated on its own as a standalone historic district? In my opinion, absolutely not. So that's the end of the story. At that point, that's all you can do. That's the only option you have. However, I would strongly encourage you, Chris, to talk to BRI and see if they don't want this house, because they might just back in there and move it. It's a really easy one to move.
That's a great option. Thank you.
That's a really easy one to move. At least then we'd still have the house, and Allison's questions about affordability and so on are immediately solved, because it would go into their affordable housing effort. So I would talk to Steve Wyatt.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
for anyone else that's listening, you should do that before you come to us.
Well, is Jan still on there?
No,
Because
but,
tearing the house down is the last should be the last option.
Sorry, right there.
Especially in
she
our
didn't raise
market.
her hand.
Yeah, but she's paying attention.
Oh, of course. Nate? Gloria, Nate had a question.
Yes, let me ask you to unmute. Sorry.
All right, Nate?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I just wanted to give my
2 cents and comments here. I actually live right next door to this home. I bought the house next door last summer, and yeah, I just wanted to give my 2 cents that I don't think, you know, demolishing the home and building a new one would, you know, affect the integrity of the neighborhood. The house directly across the street was built in the 90s. So I don't think it really detract, like another one more modern wouldn't detract from that.
Duplex?
And I don't know if any of you have driven past this or looked at it as closely as Chris, but it is in complete disrepair. I walked through it when I was up for sale. I know the tenant who lives there right now, and it needs a lot of work, probably beyond salvaging. So as the neighbor, I would welcome a new house being built next door, and the one there to go away, given the current state that it's in.
Okay. Jan? Thanks, Nate.
Wait, let me see, ask her to mute.
Can we get his full name?
Hi, this is Jan Sorby, and I live in the Bryant Park neighborhood. And I know, I agree with Duncan that this house could not be elevated on its own, and it makes me sad. I kind of like these small houses, and I like them for a couple of reasons. I like them because, A, they really speak to a time when people were satisfied with less. I talked to an elderly neighbor that was born in the neighborhood, and he said that there were 3 kids, a mom and a dad in that house in the 40s.
Well, but that's not unusual.
On the other hand, I know that this tiny house is smaller than what a 1-bedroom, the minimum size for a 1-bedroom apartment is. On the other hand, I see this house as maybe, you know, a house for a single person could actually afford it. And the neighborhood is diverse in terms of economic levels. And even with our student population, we have a diverse student population. Not everybody that goes to IU can afford an expensive apartment, particularly first-generation students. So I approached this house with a heavy heart. And, but what concerns me the most is this seems to be a trend in the neighborhood. In the neighborhood where the land is valued much more highly than the modest housing stock. This is the second house within the past year, modest, small, affordable house that will be torn down. The first house that this happened to, again, we don't have a historic district. There's nothing that can be done about it, really. And it's being replaced by a huge, huge house that towers over the neighbors. And a 2-story garage that just, you know, is completely out of character with the scale and the rhythm on the street. And I think that the rhythm on the street, the new house in the 90s, was still a narrow house. It's a 2-story, but it's narrow. And it's on a narrow lot. And I'm just hoping that the petitioner will consider the apparent scale of the house from the street, the new house that they will be building. I know that, you know, you can build something very narrow and have it spectacular and have more volume. And so I just wanted to put my 2 cents in as a neighbor who absolutely values these small houses. Particularly, I support having a lot broken in half and having a small house on a corner for, you know, a family. So that's all I really have to say about it. I'm sad. That's it. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Jan. Good to hear from you. All right, Chris, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just.
Yeah, I did have a comment.
Wait a minute, oh,
Different Chris.
Oh, Chris,
Oh,
I'm
wrong,
sorry.
Chris. Well, I do, when I get to my turn, please let me know.
all right. Good, we'll let you go ahead since you're
Okay,
here.
just to address it, the site is a very, very small site. It's 33 feet wide on Grant Street. It widens to 40 feet along the alley. I have been working with designs that the house is 16 to 17 feet wide that I'm designing to go there. Basically, I'm sensitive to the whole neighborhood area with the historic bungalows on Washington, Lincoln, and then the newer development that has happened on Dunn Street. And so the character of this house is very much in the bungalow style. What I've been designing is certainly a shotgun that goes there, because I can't go any wider than that. So,
Okay.
so and I'm looking at roughly 1,400 square feet with a detached garage. So it's not intended to be a mansion in this quaint little area of historic bungalows. So.
Thank you, Chris. And Chris Sturbaum?
Yeah, just some reflections on this whole process. The demolition delay is valuable because it lets us reflect on the losses that happen even in areas that aren't locally designated. This is a naturally occurring affordable housing, but it needs money to be put into it. And I think the return on investment is when they are in pretty bad shape. So this is a process that's natural and happens, and if it's going to just happen organically, we can't do anything about it. This moment also reflects, a failure by either commission or the neighborhood to get this area to a conservation district where these demolitions wouldn't be allowed, and the scale would be protected. But without protection, we are in the situation that Jan was in, which is mourning the loss of these small houses, these small affordable houses, and watching them go. But we must remind ourselves that we're not really powerless about looking back at this neighborhood one more time and thinking, why haven't we protected it? Is it too far gone? Is it something we just are going to let go? That's something that's always our responsibility as preservationists. So we look at it, we think, we reflect on it. If it's going to be in anyone's hands, Chris Floyd is going to do the best job with it. But the organic change of the neighborhood, while not inevitable, is if we don't take some different approaches.
All right, thank you, Chris. Today, regarding the property located at 1306 South Grant Street, the Historic Preservation Commission declared that it got notice of proposed demolition, and after today's discussion, sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council. Okay. Dee?
Did someone second?
Yeah, I did.
Wait, did you first?
I was first.
Wait.
He was really fast.
All right, Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
Allison Chopra,
Yes.
motion carried.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for coming in. Really appreciate it. I know you'll do a good job.
Thanks.
I'll be by to check it out.
As do I.
Can I make a comment on this last one?
Yes,
Or,
yes.
I would sort of rephrase what Chris says. This is actually an opportunity for the neighborhood to look at what might have happened, and this is the time for them to get together and decide whether or not they want to save the pattern of their neighborhood. So talk to your neighbors. You're getting a new neighbor who's going to build a lovely new house that I'm sure will fit the pattern of settlement that exists there, because he does really good work and you can't help but pay attention to things like that. It's a great little neighborhood. I love wandering around in it.
I like it too.
But, if they want it, I think the conservation district comes best from within.
Okay, well, we got Jan Sorby who lives in that neighborhood and a few others, and so maybe something could happen with that. I mean, as Gloria has pointed out to everybody, there's a lot of houses in that area that could deem that. All right.
Okay.
So let's move on.
Okay.
Photo competition?
Yes, so we had 10 entries, those were included in the packet, but I went ahead and made nifty homework for all of you, because we never determined a subcommittee other than Sam volunteering. So I'm going to pass along, grab one, I think yeah.
I already did mine during study hall.
Okay. Did you grab one?
This is photo contest.
Yeah, I already did it.
Oh, okay.
You already do it?
No,
You
I
already
didn't do
grade
it.
yours? Then why do you
No.
not? Okay, do you know?
It's okay.
No.
There's more here. Here you go.
You got to grade it.
And it's in the packet as well, the packet.
Yes, it's in the
Why don't you
packet,
tell
but
everyone what the rules of the contest were?
so in the end, in the long run, the rules are included there. Originally, they were only supposed to be submitted via Instagram, but because people were having trouble accessing Instagram, I talked to legal, and he allowed us to have people submit them on via email as well. These are the entries we got. There were 10 entries. There are the rules are written. People were very flexible with their interpretations of the rules. The only thing I'm going to ask you is to use your judgment with the photos and to consider the points for creativity, because in the end, this is what we got. This was a project just to foster goodwill with the community. I'm just gonna ask that they be returned to me by
Next Wednesday.
And you can just scan them or just write the points on an email or send the packet in. It's all up to you. And
Gee, this is a
Or you
PDF.
can just do it now real quick. So you see.
it's in the packet, so
Oh, yeah.
it's up to you.
Well,
So
it depends if you care if people follow the rules.
yes.
I did.
So also,
very easy.
some of you already got some of these, but we had, I also wanted to announce some upcoming events. This next Tuesday, June 14th, the Near West Side Opposition Period Orientation with the community is happening. Duncan and I will be working with some of the Near West Side neighborhood community members and council chambers to talk about these changes that are happening, how the community can participate and what their roles, determining whether it stays as a conservation district or elevates to a historic district. For it to be retained as a conservation district, it's a very, very tall order, but it's not impossible, so we'll see. It's a very involved community. Anyways, I had a lot of extra postcards, so I wanted to pass those along in case anybody who hadn't gotten one last week, and some May Preservation Month bookmarks. Some of you were here, but some of you weren't, so if you want some of those, that's great. Also, Indiana Landmarks is sponsoring a window repair workshop in Kendallville. It's very far from here, but the information is on their webpage and on their Instagram. It's $5 per person, but if anybody wants to do the drive up there and go to window repair shop, that's happening on Tuesday as well. This next Wednesday is the second reading for the nomination of 200 East Kirkwood, now known as the People's Bank, but previously known as the Loan and Savings Bank. We had the first reading yesterday. 2 of the council members present were in favor, the other 4 abstained or passed at the moment. So if any of the commissioners wants to be present next week, I'll probably send a reminder with the packet and the agenda for next week's meeting. nominating his modernist and international style buildings is usually a tall order, is part of the feedback that I got yesterday. Buildings that aren't as flashy as others because of the era they were built in is usually a bit of a taller order. A case can be made. We'll see what happens. That said, June 23 is we are bringing up formally in our next HPC meeting the nomination for the Bethel AME Church. Liz has been working with the community for a long time, and they went ahead and submitted the application for the church, which is an outstanding building, and the priory right by it, which is a contributing building. So today I spent most of the morning doing research for the staff report, and I will continue working on that next week. So just some really good upcoming events, and I think that's it for me.
All right, any,
One down and more to go.
And more to go.
We gotta get the Elks
Matthew?
Lodge, the Masons Lodge, the Mays House.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the club.
Yeah, those are important to the African American community, so we gotta recognize a
Yes.
few more buildings.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. I was just gonna say, in terms of the photo contest, I think it's a great start.
Yeah.
And my wife she's a member of several Bloomington photography groups, and she got it out. I think maybe a little bit of it, the submit by Instagram.
Yeah.
Just talking to her, a lot of the members of those groups are not, say, big on Instagram. Let me just put it that way. So next year, maybe, just saying it can be an email attachment.
Tell her to send me feedback, because this was a first time experience,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of learning bumps.
Yeah, I'll have her do that, but I think you're to be commended for doing it. I think it's off to a good start. I suspect we could get more traction next year, and there's some good pictures in there.
When you
so-
were trying to promote the Instagram page
Yeah,
too, right? Yeah, which is a
I
new
think
thing, so
that was
combining
good.
it, but.
That was good.
Well, we have 80 Instagram followers.
Right.
If any of you have photos that you want to share, you're also welcome to.
I'm not even on Instagram, and I'm 39. Okay, let's put that.
I'm 53, so get with it.
Yeah, well,
I'm not,
you're
man.
much cooler than me. Yeah, I'm just like, no, I did not, no. I'm not
I
doing that.
rejoined Instagram before.
Did you follow the rules?
I
Did
pretty
you
much
follow the rules?
downloaded it again
So I
for
can
that
follow
reason.
the
I hadn't been using
agency.
it.
Oh, wow.
You get connected to Facebook really easy.
Any more commissioner comments?
Do we have a report from Mr. Dixon on the proceedings for the thing on Second and Fest and the thing on?
Well, Daniel's with us.
We haven't had any more, I don't think we've had any more movement on the stripped columns over on, I can never remember the.
Valentine?
Did I?
Thank you,
Wait.
that one.
Oh, he's a co-host. Okay. I wasn't sure if Daniel could.
I see.
Sam, was that a question to me?
Yep. Any more movement on either of those?
I'm having a little hard time hearing you.
Sorry, I'm just asking about the thing on Second and Fest and thing on Valentine, is that right? Valentine with the columns? Any more movement on either of those? Anyone?
So my understanding with 605 Southwest, they've ordered the tiles.
Okay.
They're manufactured and shipping. I think they'll be here in October and ready to install.
Okay,
So that one's holding for right now.
okay.
The Valentine columns, I'll defer to Gloria on where things are with those.
Yes, I'm still waiting to hear back from them. They said they were going to prepare the batches for us.
Okay,
The
that's
samples.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
And I'll stop pestering you until October.
Any public comments?
I have a comment. I just want to encourage commissioners to go to the council meetings when we have designations. It's really awful when nobody shows up. I mean, I don't know how they get anything, how they get any information other than to have the staff do her job for them. But historically, council members or commissioners have always shown up for these events and stood up and, 3 or 4 or 5 people and said why these buildings are important, because there's no reason to believe that people on the council will necessarily understand why they are important or what their context is. And we're supposed to be the people with the expertise. You've got to show up to these meetings. We did this thing on the Johnson Creamery, and I was the only person there night after night after night, and it was really disappointing, I gotta say. I'm not even voting, So I don't even have the credibility that you guys have, so you really need to make the effort to go to those meetings when there's designations.
Okay, thank you, Duncan. Okay, I don't think we have any public comments, and so we're adjourned.